Okay, think I'm live now. Might be a little bit of a awkward silence at the beginning as there usually is. I really can't tell from the delay. But heyo everybody, Haku here with the discussion that I said I'll be doing multiple times for Tower of God, the most recent few chapters, and the anime season 2 because I know people are going to want me to bring it up. So yeah, welcome everybody. I'll throw up the chapters as I'm talking about them, throw up anything else I have to talk about, stuff like that. But yeah, I guess maybe I don't know if I should wait a few minutes for people to get in here, just start going through the chapters, talking about them, talk about Tower of God stuff in general. I don't really have a direction planned. I've been trying all week to just, multiple weeks really, to do this stream. And I'm tired. I have really been trying to get time to do this. So yeah, I'm just gonna hang out, talk about the past 3 chapters, kind of go back through them and talk about things as I see them. Just because, like I mentioned in my reactions, it was a sort of situation where after watching everybody else's reactions, I had a lot more to think about. There were a lot of new things that crept into my mind as I, saw everybody else and what their thoughts were and was able to give my thoughts on them, stuff like that. So, yeah, either way, doesn't look like anybody's here yet, but again, I really can't tell. Again, I'm very new to this streaming stuff, and YouTube doesn't necessarily make it easy, I feel like. I don't know. It is complex. Maybe I'm dumb, but I am very new to this. Either way, though, let me just pull up some of the chapters and start talking. Let me go over to here. I'm going to start with this one, actually, and let me bring it up for all of you. We will go, what do you think is best if you're here? I could go bottom left, I could go I could go bottom right, I got top left, I got top right. I guess top right, or no, top left. This looks good to me. I think, like, because it's like I'm looking down at the chapter or whatever. I think this this one looks good. Let me check, make sure nobody's saying anything in chat. Nope. Okay. So before I get into talking about the actual chapters themselves, a few things that I wanted to mention just in the preamble here is I've talked about before how, like, when I'm working and stuff, I'll listen to other people's Tower of God read-throughs to, like, catch up on the ones I missed, don't catch live, and I've been going through and finishing up the ones I hadn't seen of Amy Angel's reactions. And so I'm finishing out the Nest there, and some new Nest stuff that ties back into what we're seeing here. A lot of the Wong Wong stuff. A lot of the Wong Wong stuff ties in, so I'll probably talk about that kind of as I get to it, where Wong Wong and Traumerei, I think the big thing for me after reading last chapter was how in the Wong Wong Traumerei flashback, hold on, just checking something really quick. Sorry. Okay, never mind, it's nothing. Okay, sorry about that. Never mind. I was just checking, I saw a message pop up on Discord, so I was checking that because I told the other Tower of God YouTubers, I was like, sorry, I don't have like a specific time when I think I'll be able to stream, just whenever I get free time. But I was like, if you see me live at any point and you want to just message me and hop into a call, just do so. It's fine. Antisocial says, hey Haku, hello Antisocial. So yeah, I basically extended the invitation. I was like, hey, if any of you want to jump in, just message me. But at the same time, I was like, I have no clue when I'm going to get free time to be able to stream. But yeah, it's fine. If anybody wants to jump in here, they can. Any of the other Tower of God YouTubers that I know in my circle, etc. I don't like to talk all parasocial. I don't want to seem overly, I don't want to seem like overly friendly, and weird anybody out or anything. I don't want to act too friendly, even though, legitimately, I'm just like, oh, wow, we've talked for, a few messages. We're friends now. That's the way that I tend to look at things. But yeah, I wanted to bring up, during the Nest stuff, Traumerei is Traumerei goes to visit Leviathan, and then after Traumerei goes to visit Leviathan, Kirin says, should we send people to do something about Wanglong, to do something about the canine people? And Traumerei tells Kirin, no, I need to go handle it myself. I put those feelings away, and I need to go make sure I don't have those feelings anymore, because Wanglong made me feel something I haven't felt in a long time. And I think that's really connected, probably to Enkidu, maybe to Amizu. I think that Wanglong maybe started to make Traumerei feel genuine friendship again, and much like in the most recent chapter, where Traumerei's like, Traumerei and Gastang are like, we don't feel those emotions anymore. We put those emotions away. I think that, yeah, living tens of thousands of years, being a godlike existence, that probably leads in to the way that they're cold at this point. But I also think a certain level of it is not just putting their memories away, but putting the emotions tied to those memories away. Because like Traumerei says about the day they stopped climbing or whatever, or the time before that, I guess, rather, he's like, I remember what happened, but I don't remember how I feel about what happened. And so then going back and seeing that he says similar stuff about Wanglong to me, I was like, okay, that seems connected. He goes to visit Leviathan, where we know he dumps his memories off, and then he's like, okay, I need to check and make sure I don't feel the same things for Wanglong anymore. But I just wanted to bring that up. Also, bringing up a few things when I talked about power scaling and stuff like that in the past, and I talked about like different sort of levels that various characters might be at. And I was like, I think that the top like 2 members of Pobedao and Lopobia are probably like top 50 level. I think Dumas, Lobanon, Kirin, Proust, I think they're probably like top 50 level, maybe not top 25, but between 25-50, and I think that the next 3 big important members of Pobedao and Lopobia were probably like top 100 when it came to the White Garment Widow, and then Perditi and Perseus for the Lopobia. And when it came to the other 3 members of sort of Gastang's inner circle, Kier, Erno, and Hugo for the Pobedao family, when it came to Gastang's inner circle, I think that they might be like top 100. Going back through the nest, when Traumerei and his like personal guard first show up, Yuhan Sung says that he thinks that Perditi and Perseus are probably Evenkel level. So again, that is just more sort of leveling where they might be with all of that. And also in addition to that, more of the Wanglong and Yusracha flashback stuff. This, I feel like, so the Great War, I think, kind of blends into the War of Genesis. I think they just kind of meld together at a certain point, because we're gonna, as we go through these past 3 chapters, we're gonna kind of have to discuss where in the timeline some of this stuff takes place. I think the flashback we're seeing takes place after everybody split up, but before the actual war, the War of Genesis, began. Because we know there's a certain period of time Arlen was ruling the Floor of Death before it got turned into the Zahard worship altar place, before it got destroyed by Yenryu. So like, way back then, we know there was a period of time when Arlen and V weren't on good terms with Zahard and the rest of them, but they were still living alongside them, and I think that's the time period that we're in. Eventually this turns into the Great War, and I think the Great War and War of Genesis might be like the same thing, because Cha knew about Arlen, and if Cha knows about Arlen, he fought in the War of Genesis. I think it might just be the same thing, maybe. Beyond that, what I wanted to get into because of that flashback is Yusracha and Wanglong were ancient. They were like way old. I think some of this stuff that we're seeing too, like, probably takes like, the scale of time in Tower of God is so nuts. Some of the stuff we're seeing in this Yusracha flashback, or not Yusracha, this Traumerei flashback, is probably taking course over like years, maybe even decades at a time, whenever we're like, oh yeah, he and Enkidu hung out and traveled around the tower. That could be like 20 years or so for all we know. Like, we could be going through long spans of time here. The only one we had confirmed was when Enkidu got his body, and it was like a couple of months before he met back up with Traumare. That's the only time we have a concrete number, really. So I think this could be spanning a long period of time, just what we're seeing here. But what I was bringing up is that the Wang Wang and Yusracha flashback says that the experiment that made Wang Wang and Yusracha happened when the Great War was still ongoing, but it was kind of wrapping up. It was like towards the end, the Great War was kind of coming to an end, and by that point, Kirin was already around, Traumare was already a family head and had the shorter haircut, so that, like, maybe just the Great War / the War of Genesis just lasted thousands of years, for all we know. Because again, it could have happened via Narlan leave, and the war keeps on going as FUG and the Hidden Grove and the native kingdoms of the tower fought against Zahard's empire. It could have just kept going for a long, long time, because the war was still ongoing but wrapping up when the experiment that made Yusracha and Wang Wang happened. So that was like, I didn't think it was that far back in the past when I first read that flashback, but that is ancient. That is like really, really far back there. And I guess that's all I wanted to say about like preamble stuff. But before I get into episodes 199, episode 200, and episode 201, I wanted to re-go through the first scene of season 3, episode 164, or overall chapter 581. That's what I have pulled up now. And I'm like, how was this that long ago? How was this like 50 chapter, or like, well, actually it's like 30 chapters ago. Sorry about that. 37? But how was this that long ago? How's this nearly 40 chapters ago that we got this stuff? I just wanted to bring up the beginning of this. What brought it up is I was watching one of Ron Can's reactions, and we're talking about like the time period and everything. And I was looking back to try to find more info, and then I found this. So I shared it with him. Then when Amy Angel was streaming, I shared it with her and Dr. Bonehead. And I was like, hey, check out this chapter. This has a lot to do with what we're seeing now. And we just get so much more information. So to start off, we're talking about Eurasia N. But here's the thing. We know that wasn't why they put their memories away, because they still remember N and the N incident. And then what she discovered, again, it was the Arlen stuff. It was the fact that Zahard orchestrated the event that killed the original generation of princesses. And then Zahard's already been punished is a really weird one, a really weird line. And it took us a long time to realize that they need to worry about maintaining their relationships and draw a line between them and everyone else, because everyone else are insignificant little insects, which is what we're seeing now. What we're seeing now, they still view non-irregulars, people who were climbing the tower with them, they still view people like Amizu as, you know, kind of them. They're still part of the us. And it took them a long time to go from thinking that way. Look at the way that Traumare treats Amizu in this flashback. Look at the way that Yirang is talking with Amizu. It takes them a while of just getting hurt again and again before they finally say, okay, irregulars are us, and everyone who's not an irregular isn't us. So then they talk about that, which is, again, really important to what we're seeing now. This, I think, is really big. So he talks about, like, friends, like, there's always the one friend who wants to rupture the group. I think he's I thought originally Gaston was talking about himself, that he wanted to burrow in, disrupt the group now because they've gotten complacent, bring the true history, whatever. But after seeing the flashback, we know he didn't like V. Is he talking about V splintered the group because he wanted to keep climbing? Is he talking about Mircea? Did Mircea want to splinter their group because of what we're seeing in the flashback right now with him showing up to this wedding? There could be a couple other interpretations now. And then this, I think, is massive too. They talk about that day a lot. Amizu hasn't been the same since that day. Stuff like that. And here we have, he says, the day when we stopped climbing the tower, we know for sure this is now that day. and they close the door to the higher floors, and they don't know why. He says, we've learned to forget, we've sealed away important memories with our own storage methods, and it seems like the family heads all stored away what happened on that day when they split up and sealed the higher floors, and since then, they've been sealing away other things. Like Traumerei, for example, we know that he sealed away his memories of Wang Wang. We know that whatever happens in this flashback, when we first got the Traumerei face reveal, he's like, Gaston, I feel horrible. I'ma forget this. So we know that Traumerei's been sealing away a bunch more. Sorry, just checking chat again. Again, I am really, really new to this, so if YouTube's messing up and I'm not seeing your messages, I'm very, very sorry, but I still don't see any new ones. So sorry about that if I'm just ignoring anyone. I don't want to be. But again, just gonna continue monologuing here. So we know that they've been storing away even more, and Gaston doesn't know. Did they run away? Did they choose to stop climbing the tower? And I think this leads us, like, we know that what they forgot is that day. What's important now is kind of the why and the how, and there's so many different theories that are good. Is it that what was on the next floor, whether it's the administrator of the next floor, whether it's the next floor's test, is there something up there that is so dangerous that they could not keep climbing? Is there something that manipulated them? Is head-on involved, or any of the administrators, did they manipulate them to accept the immortality contracts and to stop climbing? I think something a lot of people are like, oh, Zahard got replaced by something else. The climber, the adventurer got replaced by some tyrant who wanted to be king. And I think that one of the most important pieces to this puzzle is going to be the red horn thing that we saw at the hidden floor. We saw the red horn thing within Data Zahard. We see red horns on Wangnan. They're on Karaka's, the imagery of them is on Karaka's observer. The weapon that Wangnan gets looks like that. And is that something even almost similar to Enkidu? Could that thing have inhabited Zahard's body and taken over Zahard's body? Maxime says, I don't understand why sealed memories about one day can change every family head so much, unless Head-On or other administrators offered them a contract that changed them. I think it's part of the emotions behind it, because not only are their memories sealed, but I really feel like after what we learned last chapter, after what I said earlier talking about the Wang Wang flashback, it feels to me like, sorry, I was just checking the stream, making sure everything looked all right. I think that their emotions getting dampened or sealed away, I think that's a big part of what changes them. And I also think it's just the passage of time, just being that godlike for that long. Because we even see now, I feel like Edwan and Hone are more playful here with Edwan kicking him and stuff than they would be now. We know that now Edwan and Zahard aren't on great terms, but we don't know if they were back then. We see that Traumerei, even back then, with his fireworks show, with the way he talks to Amizu, with the way he hangs out with Enkidu, he was kind of always weird and muted, and Yirang kind of hints at that. But at the same time, he was different even back then. Traumerei was looser back then than he is now, where now he literally just hides away nonstop and nobody ever sees him. So I think it's just the passage of time, and like Gaston said, those bad things piling up again and again, happening to them again and again, kind of maybe led them to be this way over time. But also it's huge because the reason they split, they were all seemingly a really tight-knit group. I said this after reading last chapter. Some of the stuff we saw between Traumerei and his friends seems genuinely like a closer friendship than we've seen from Baum and his friends since Season 2. Like Season 2, we get these scenes where they're hanging out and they feel like real friends, but we haven't really seen that in Season 3. Some of the way in episode 201 of Season 3 that we see Edwan and Traumerei talking, or Traumerei and Gaston talking, I don't even see Baum and Kun really talking like that, or Baum and Rak this season. So they feel like really close friends, and them splitting is a massive thing. I think that is our big question. right now. Because again, even Gaston with this chapter, I don't understand why we stopped there and didn't keep climbing. We're ignorant, and I've always despised ignorance. And then he brings up this that I also think is important, not just to the most recent 3 chapters, but to the Revolution stuff we've been seeing before here, and the like Enkidu Rachel stuff. And I like too, they say that's why you wanted the irregulars, because Gaston's been using Rachel to like really good effect. Rachel got Gaston the Fitbit, which is huge. So, and Rachel got him one of the Zahard rings, which is a piece of the key, which is, again, pieces of the key are going to be one of the hugest, like, items in the entire series. So, using Rachel has really worked out for Gaston. So I like that they say irregulars here, but he says, you know, death isn't optional, and he has the Fitbit. And he says the irregulars found it on the hidden floor. I still don't know exactly how to use it, but here he says it connects us to the things we were afraid of while climbing. What is that? Is that the administrators? Like, are the administrators what they were afraid of while climbing? Is it the ancient creatures? And that's why we see, even after establishing their empire, Tromare was out hunting this ancient creature. When they went after Akranak, Zahard was overseeing his army and the Lopobia family going after them. So, is that what they were afraid of while climbing? Is it the Machine Kingdom, or in the most recent chapter, they call them the Mechanoids? Is it them that they were afraid of while climbing the tower? Because we know they fought against them. And then we have like the Icarus backstory and stuff. And I think my bets on Icarus are either Icarus is a creation of the workshop, which I kind of don't want to think so, because we already have other creations of the workshop that are important. So it's like Icarus is a little less special that way. I think it would be cool if Icarus was from the Machine Nation. Icarus called themselves a puppet. If Icarus was one of the Mechanoids, was a machine person who sided with Zahard and the family heads, and there was some great tragedy for that. I think that would be an interesting way to do the Icarus lore. And it has the power to destroy both Zahard and the 10 family heads. And I think the reason for that, and he says, I'm giving this tool of destruction to the vermin. I have no idea whether or not they'll be able to lead us to destruction. I'm going to summon you. Yeah. So this is what's important to me. He's giving it to the vermin. And we saw that the Shipwan Ryu technology, they can create the Shinwan Ryu burst from those ships. They can warp those ships without the need for a warp drive. And when given to Rachel, and not even the original given to Rachel, when a copy of it is given to Rachel, she can use Shinwan Ryu. So it seems like what the Fitbit allows you to do is copy Shinwan Ryu, or use it despite not being an irregular. And if Gaston gives that technology to the vermin, to the regular inhabitants of the tower, that's something that could actually lead to the death of the family heads. Because it's like, sorry, I just saw something pop up. Hopefully some of you aren't getting an ad, but some of you might be getting an ad. Sorry, I can't help that. It's just something that YouTube does. Whenever I see the thing pop up that says people are getting ads, I'm gonna just yap a little, check chat, talk a little to you. I don't want to say anything important while some people might be trapped with ads. Maxime says, I think considering that Head-On intervenes into Tromare and Enkidu's relationship, the administrators and Head-On have their own plans. I think so too. For me, personally, the thing that Head-On keeps saying in the rare instances we see him, Head-On keeps saying the tower's a place for trials and tests. That's something that he keeps going on and on about. And I think that he wants the people of the tower to be tested, to have fitting trials and tests, but also I think that he and the other administrators probably aren't a big fan of Zahard instituting his own method of climbing. I think that, stagnating the tower, locking off the further floors up, from being able to, like, from people being able to climb even further and be tested even further. I think that Head-On probably doesn't like that, and I think that's part of why he's doing the Enkidu stuff, because we see the way that Enkidu is now, in the long term, being turned against him and possibly working with Revolution, and we know that Akryung is part of Revolution. Akryung was somebody that Head-On gave to Rachel, so Head-On and Akryung were already working together. So from that, I do think Head-On is working with this Revolution in some sort of way, because he has the Akryung connection there. And if he's working with Revolution, I think it is probably to go against Zahard's empire just because of the stagnation. That's something that Gororo said when Gororo was first bringing us the idea of revolution. Gororo said the natural order of things is for the old generation to die out and the new generation to rise up. And by becoming immortal and denying the new generation their place, Zahard and the 10 family heads have gone against nature. They've stagnated the tower. And I think that's probably what Head-On doesn't like as well, because if it's a place for trials and tests, Zahard's not being tested anymore. The family heads aren't being tested anymore. They stopped testing themselves. They stopped going to the higher floors and accepting the new challenges. And I think that toward the end game of the series, that's kind of always how I pictured the end game in a certain way. I feel like the key gets collected, whoever schemes, whoever collects it, the door to the higher floors gets opened, and my idea for the end game of the series has always been, when we get to that point, Bomb is like, I'm taking my allies and I'm climbing higher. I'm going to the upper floors. I'm seeing what the top of the tower has to offer, just because that's the sort of trajectory that his story's generally been on. And then Zahard is going to have to say, well, I can't let you climb higher than me. So Zahard, much like what Dada Zahard wanted and hinted at back in the hidden floor, Dada Zahard's like, I'm going to help this boy. I'm going to give him the Fitbit because you need to get that adventurer spirit back. You need to climb again. I think it's going to be something where Bomb and his allies are going to climb to the higher floors. So Zahard has to be like, boys, we're coming out of retirement. Get his allies and say, we need to climb again. Zahard has to be forced to be that adventurer again. And that's, to me, what I think the end game climax of the series is much like we saw Rachel's group climbing and Bomb's group climbing during the Hell Train adventures, and they're going back and forth at each other. I think Bomb's end game team versus endgame antagonist team, probably Zahard or the red horn thing that's inhabiting Zahard. It's going to be those two groups fighting to go up to the next floor, which is maybe even the final floor. I think that, to me, is endgame Tower of God content. But with that aside, we haven't even gotten to these 3 chapters. Let's start going through 199. Again, if any of you have any topics that you want me to get to, I'll get to them. And if not, I'll just go through this stuff, just kind of scroll through. I'm not going to read every line like when I do my reactions. And when I have another topic to bring up because of this, I'll jump into that topic. This is right after they finished climbing, but I think right after is, again, a relative thing. I think this could be hundreds of years. Sorry, hiccup. Or even decades, at least. It could be at least decades, maybe even hundreds of years, because Chomray's already building this place. There's already the grain of an idea of a princess system, stuff like that. And also interesting to note here that when they bring them up, later on they call Edwan and Yirang and Ariehon the heads of their families, but here they just say Pobedao Gastang and Lopabia Chomarai. So because of that, I don't think that either of them, we know for sure for Chomarai, I think at this point, neither of them have started families. And that's why they're just presented by their names, not head of insert family when we get their boxes. Also, I love Chomarai here being like, flowers, I can't stand this. They're growing without my permission. And he destroys it. But again, we're seeing how we know there's the god of nature and the 5 flower kingdoms. Flowers existed before humans and all that. And Tromri is like, it's fascinating, but it's annoying because they grow without his permission. He never created or planted them. And it's also, he like brings up, regardless of how I feel. So Tromri seemingly can't control plants. Folded Ghoul says, yo, I just got here. Maxime said, I think Hedon and the other administrators didn't want the 13 warriors to reach the top of the tower. I think Hedon let Arlen to go out of the tower to create bomb for whatever purpose. Maybe. Let me think about that a second. And Alex said, I could see decades meaning right after. Yeah, and possibly centuries. Yeah, I think it's not like right after. I think it's like right after in Tower of God terms of times. But with what Maxime said, Hedon didn't want and the administrators didn't want them to reach the top. I think they might want them to reach the top. I think they want them to keep going. I think at least Hedon. I don't know about the other administrators, because the other administrator, the 100th floor one, did give them the immortality contract, but I think Hedon at least wanted them to keep climbing. And letting Arlen go out of the tower to create bomb, again, I think that's to fight against the stagnation, because Zahard and his empire was going to stagnate the tower. So now we have Bomb, who's going to be sent back in. And there's a lot of theories of what Bomb could be at this point. I think the original child of Arlen and V was Juvial Grace. And I think that Juvial Grace was killed by Zahard. And then Arlen took him to the outside. And my thoughts from there, Arlen's not a great person. Arlen didn't say, I want you to live a happy life here outside the tower where you can see the stars. Arlen said, I want you to go back in and kill Zahard. So Arlen set her child up from the start. I don't think Arlen's a great person in that sense. I think what happened is that the outside god put some spirit, maybe even its own spirit, into Bomb. I could see it being its own spirit. The outside god wanted to see what it was like to live as a person and inhabited Viol's body, becoming Bomb. Rachel named him Bomb, then went into the tower and is now climbing the tower. I think that Bomb right now could be the outside god, but just not know it. I think that's a possibility, or at least a spirit put into the Viol body by the outside god, and I think our hints at that are a reflection of Huang's story from Hidden Floor, because Huang wanted to know what it was like. Huang had always been just this spirit, and wanted to know what it was like to live as a person, so they inhabited the body of Yura's brother, were raised as a child, but eventually, and remember Rachel said that Arlen always called Bomb a monster. So here's the thing, when Huang started getting old enough, Yura's mom was like, you aren't my son, you're some spirit that invaded the body of my son, which I'm like, you know, what's really the difference, honestly? Like, if this was a baby you never knew, and this other spirit went into it and was raised as your child, I mean, what's really I'm not even sure how big a distinction that makes. But then Yura's mom is like, you're a monster, you're not the child I raised. I think it could be a similar situation, where Arlen's like, I want my baby to come back to life. The spirit goes into it that isn't the original child spirit. The original Bomb spirit is something different. And then Arlen was like, this isn't my child, this is a monster. And that's where we get that Rachel line. Folded Ghoul said, it is weird that Tromre can't control plants because of the tree that Lobanon has. Yeah, that's what I was going to say before I got off on the other tangent. There was even characters that brought up how important that tree is, that it was given to him by Tromre. I think that is really important. That Tromre says, I can't control plants, I'm more of an animal guy, and yet Lobanon can control the Gran Abuelo, which I think is nuts. I think that's really, really, really cool. So yeah, we have Tromre here, talking about all this stuff. It's irritating and amazing at the same time. Tromre has an insane problem with control. Maxime says Garam knows the truth. True, Garam hinted at stuff like that. And said, oh, she couldn't tell him everything. And again, that still doesn't tell us what Rachel is, how Rachel knows about some of this stuff. But I'll get into a little bit of that later when I get to the Enkidu head-on scene, because I'll talk about head-on more when I get to that Enkidu head-on stuff, and talk about how Rachel wraps into that more when I get to that too. But Traumerei has this obsession with control. He wanted Enkidu to be like a friend that he can control. All the way back here, he talks about Amizu, and he's like, I wish I could just control what she thinks. I wish I could just control what she does. And it's interesting, I brought this up, and then Dr. Bonehead brought it up too, that the way Zahard talks to him, he is like, oh, I love this woman, Amizu, but then he's like, oh, Zahard told me she's not a real person. Your friend just tells you your wife or your fiance isn't a real person. And he starts thinking, maybe Zahard's right about this. And Zahard's like constantly using his friendship over Traumerei. Folded Goal says, and didn't she say the information would completely break him? I think so. I really think I think what she might be referring to is that Baum isn't the original Viol spirit, but I think more than that, my personal theory is that Baum could even be the outside god just placed into the Viol body to climb. And that, again, makes you think, who is Enryu? Because Enryu is like working as a delivery boy for the outside gods. It's like, who's Enryu? But it's interesting how Zahard is holding his friendship over Traumerei and like constantly, would you jump off a bridge if your friend did? Yeah, Zahard is constantly manipulating Traumerei. Traumerei is the one who's obsessed with manipulating other people. And then, sorry. My train of thought derailed a little bit there. But he's like constantly manipulating Traumerei. Traumerei's original plan for the Beastkin was the rules of the tower say that you're not allowed to control humans. There's been multiple characters that have said that, but the loophole to get around it is make humans that are part animal, and then you can control them as an anima. So he is obsessed to that end, and even when he gets somebody like Wang Wang, that though he can't control him, Wang Wang is loyal to the end. Wang Wang would never, ever, ever turn against Traumerei. Just the act of falling in love, just the act of caring about somebody else other than Traumerei is enough to set Traumerei off against Wang Wang. So like, he has this insane obsession with control, and we see it all the way back here with what he's about to say to Gaston in this chapter, where he asks how things are going with Amizu. And so he asks how things are going, and he's like, I wish that I could control her. And again, like right here, like maybe she is just a lower creature like Zahard said, just immediately saying, I wish I could control her like I can control animals. But before that, I kind of skimmed over. They talked about the princess system, and I went back after this to double check, and Garam does say, it looks like Zahard sends Traumerei to die. Kind of, honestly. Like, Traumerei's always the one doing Zahard's dirty work. And two, again, whenever Gaston brings up, like, you know, can we not trust every little decision he makes? When Gaston's like that, Traumerei's like, oh, he's a king. He always has our best interest at heart. Like, everything Zahard does is for our sake. So, like, he's completely on board. And they bring up the selection of princesses, but I went back and checked, and Garam does say that Gaston came up with the idea of the princess system. So it's weird, this conversation. So I think the only justification I have, unless CU's retconning something, the only justification I have is that Gaston thought of the idea of the system to be like, hey, why don't we do the princess system to get people off your back about this whole heir to the kingdom stuff. But Zahard took it too far. And I think maybe Zahard took it too far so quickly that Gaston is already having his doubts about it at this point in time. And I love that we do get to see the, like, kind of preliminary space that he's building here. But it's like, look at all these massive buildings, this world that never was looking ass ship that he's got going on, and you have like just yourself, Amizu, and your servants living there. That's like a whole city. Looks like full-on Xanarkand with the big walkway over there. So, and also the thing, like, it was unusual for us to be apart even a day. I think that Partially that might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but also I think partially it may be it may be a symptom of the way that climbing was different, because we compare that to Bomb's team, and Bomb's team routinely spends time away from each other or time split up into smaller groups, but the way that Bomb's group is climbing is just under a different system than how Zahard's group was climbing. I think Zahard's group, because they were taking the administrator tests, probably just had to spend a lot more time directly in contact with each other. Let's see, anything else we got going this chapter? I already talked about some of this stuff. Again, I have many more things to say, but I kind of want to get to that point in the chapter. Right, I totally forgot about this. This is only a couple weeks ago. We got them talking about Mixeth is crazy. I would love more Mixeth stuff, more... I want Flux and the Three Lords to be canonized. I really want to see that in the main story. I want more workshop stuff, especially when it comes to the Popedao family and when it comes to Gastang. Stuff like that, I'd love to see more. So he said he didn't get around to giving you the present he promised you. And we know that some of the characters got things from Mixeth. Like, I'm pretty sure Mixeth made Aryehon's sword. So he didn't give a present to Tromare. And of course he wants the creature that's nothing but can become anything. We see the ceiling lights here, which is something that I think Ron Can talked about in his stream a bit, that I've seen people talk about a bit, like, how does the tower work? Is it just like pocket dimensions? I think the tower is a literal tower, because it has a literal ceiling with lights on it. I think it is just, we know every floor is like the size of multiple continents or the size of a continent. I think it is just a really, really massive actual physical tower, but I also think there's space manipulation going on. We know that there is compression within Tower of God, like Yurik can compress an entire forest and move it somewhere else. And if you can do that, I think that maybe the tower itself is compressed space. So it is an actual giant physical tower, but I think that on the outside, it's probably smaller than it is on the inside, because the space within is probably compressed. That's the way I have started to view it. And also, since we know that there is a ceiling and lights, who built the ceiling? Who built the lights? Who built this tower? And if we know that the Machine Nation, the Mechanoids, the plants, the flowers, they existed before humans here, maybe the machines are the ones who built, or at least who are the ones who built the tower, or at least whoever built the tower left the machines here to maintain the tower. I think the machines that were native to the tower are either the ones who built it or are a part of it running. So, you know, since it is like an actual, like, literal physical ceiling with lights and everything that go on and off to simulate day and night. Also, it's interesting seeing this little, if you can see where my cursor is, that little thing up there. I wonder if that's just supposed to be a thin cloud, or if that's actually supposed to be like one of Amizu's birds flying around or something. And then we have the creature immediately getting a General Jelly Jiggler. Hold on, I actually think, hopefully this doesn't mess up anything on the stream. Can I, hopefully you don't see any of this on screen as I'm doing it. Can I add, let me find this. Where's this at? It isn't here. Is it under, under downloads maybe? Where is this? No. Do I not have it? Oh, I had a PNG of General Jelly Jiggler. Hold on, maybe it's under this? No, it's not here. Where is it? Dang it. I wanted to throw it up on screen. Oh well, it's not here. Or maybe it's just the wrong kind of file and I can't open it in OBS. Dang it. Well, sorry about that. Sorry about the delay. I was going to throw that up here. But we have the introduction of little Cube Enkidu, and honestly, though he's making some bad decisions, he's making some bad choices, I can empathize with why he's making these bad decisions, and I'm starting to really like Enkidu slash the creature that becomes Enkidu. I'm starting to like them as a character. I really am. This is the thing I've asked for. He puts him in the fishbowl, which is then later used for some really good imagery later on. I love here, we see red lanterns within Traumare's palace here. This is, again, very interesting. I also love how the architecture inside the palace looks a lot like all of Kirin's stuff. It looks a lot like the Lopobia family symbol, which has always felt weird for the Lopobia family. Who is this random palace person? Is this going to be somebody important in the future? Or, like, are we going to get... Like, it's so cool if some of these background characters we see here, if in, like, dozens of chapters, or hundreds of chapters even, we see them again in a different flashback, and we're like, whoa, they were actually important. That would be crazy. Okay. And then Charmray wants him to become human. Go ahead and become a real human because he's lonely. And again, Charmray's so interesting because he says, I'm lonely. And then ditches Enkidu. He, like, immediately walks away. He says, I'm lonely, and then neglects Amizu. He says, I'm lonely, and then sets Kirin off on his path of daddy issues. He constantly, like, he's like, I'm so lonely, and then just constantly always screws over all of his loved ones. Hold on, let me check chat a little before I keep going. Folded Goal says, I'm getting whooped in Elden Ring as I listen. That's the vibes. Oof. I love FromSoft's games. I still haven't played Elden Ring, though, because I wanted to wait until I get a PS5, and I still haven't gotten a PS5. But I love FromSoft's games. And Maxime says, Enkidu was pure and naive, and now he's cruel and cynic. True. Enkidu's always kind of had a little bit of a place in my heart, ever since that one, like, early chapter where he's like, Gaston, you and Traumaray are pissed, and you don't even remember who you lost. You don't even remember who died anymore. You two were a couple of clowns, putting your memories away and all this stuff. I actually have had a soft spot for Enkidu since then, just calling them a couple of clowns. And he decides to be human. This is interesting, according to the book where the story's recorded. So is this book Gaston's memory book that he wrote down his memories in? And are we seeing this not necessarily, like, we're seeing Traumaray's perspective and Gaston wasn't here for it, but is the perspective we're seeing just what Gaston knows, what he was told happened, and Gaston writing down what he was told happened? Or maybe is this sort of an amalgamation where the Leviathan memories have melded in? Before we get into the Traumaray companion stuff, just check in chat real quick again. This is cool. I want to see, let me make sure this looks good on screen for all of you. Yeah, I want to see some of these characters. This person with, it looks like a woman with the long orange hair and the arm bandages looks really cool. I want to see them. This looks like Edwan on the far left maybe, and then the guy beside Edwan looks cool too. I want to know more about their companions. Somebody in my comments said recently, they had a good point where I was like, it feels to me like right now, if we count all of Bomb's extended regular allies, not rankers or high rankers or anything, just the regulars, Bomb's got like 50-some regular allies. Not all of them are coming back. Some of them are dead, in fact. But Bomb has like a couple dozen that maybe he'll reach the top of the tower and have a couple dozen like important regulars that are part of Bomb's inner circle. He might have some really important ones, and then I'll have some kind of important ones. And I think that it would be cool if Zahar's team was similar, where it's a couple dozen, and there's the important ones, like the family heads, but then there's the, just kind of important ones. But I like keeping it special. I like being like, it's not hundreds, it's not thousands. I like constricting it to just a couple dozen people climb the tower with them. That's what I hope for, at least. And everyone at this party, it makes you think, so is everybody at the party one of their allies or whatever? But it doesn't seem like it, because there's one panel that says Traumaray's friends and the other various guests. So it seems like, and the other various guests, are they just important people in the tower? why are they the plus ones of all the friends? But not everybody at the party is one of Traumare's friends. We have V here splitting off from the rest. And this was, again, back when they weren't family heads yet. And it says they gradually grew apart. They got their own goals. And it was only later that they established their families. Again, we see that happening over the course of time. Edwan probably already has a couple kids by the time of the party, which, again, might have been hundreds more years. So, again, this could all be happening over the course of hundreds of years. Because we don't know how long the Jello Enkidu was just following Traumare around the palace. We don't know how long that relationship was. And then when, later on when we get to it, when human form Enkidu is following Traumare and they're traveling around the tower, that again could be hundreds of years. We don't really know how long this was. But then he prays, and we get the most transcendent being in the tower, which is again calling Hedon a god over and over again. We know that gods exist in Tower of God, apparently. There's the god of nature, there's the machine god. Sorry, let me get some water. There's the god on the outside, which isn't technically in the tower, but you get my point. And there's also, like, the god of hell, maybe? The demon devil thing that Joaquin talks to and made a deal with. So that thing is a thing. So we don't know what gods are, but we know that they exist. And I guess you could say Hedon's maybe the god of administrators. Because the other administrators have complete rule over their floors, but Hedon has this ability to go from floor to floor and is the most transcendent being in the tower. Also, what I mentioned before that I was going to talk about when we got to this is, what is it that you wish for so desperately? There was a desperate wish that Enkidu had, and then Hedon shows up. What does Rachel say when she first meets Hedon? She says that she read in the book that when you enter the tower, there's a fairy that grants wishes, and she calls Hedon the fairy. We also know that in a lot of folklore, fairy will, like, they're not always good. They're sometimes kind of evil, and they'll play tricks on humans and kind of manipulate them. So is Hedon this manipulative fairy that grants wishes? And once again, we saw when Serena was about to die, when Horyang was about to be disposed of, that's when Hedon showed up to make them into regulars. So it seems like when someone is in great need, that Hedon can appear to them. How does he know that they're in? And like Maxime says, the God of Guardians. I kind of didn't include God of Guardians while I was going through that, just because though that is the name, it was created by the workshop. And if the workshop can create literal gods, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if that counts the same, but it might. But, yeah, like, so I'm thinking that the fairy that grants wishes could just be a fairy tale way of talking about Hedon. Because Rachel said that when he first entered. And here he's, again, granting Enkidu's wish, but much like with allowing Rachel to climb, much like with giving Bomb the ball test, there's that was a crazy sentence out of context. Hedon giving Bomb the ball test. But there's always a catch. There's always a catch when Hedon's making these deals and letting people climb the tower. And here's what I was saying before, when he's like, the tower is a place designed for tests and trials. And also there's a division between human and non-human challengers. People have brought up, oh, does that mean irregular or non-irregular, like irregular Towerborn? I don't think so, because he's bringing it up to Enkidu. I think it's a literal human or non-human. And some of the stuff that counts as human is weird, but it does. But Enkidu doesn't count because Enkidu is nothing. Also something that Dr. Bonehead brought up kind of jokingly in my comments one week. I think it was the week of this chapter, where he was like, so... And then, Maxime said, fairies can take people to their land and their time goes differently. I really think there's some, like, fairy parallel stuff going on with Hedon. But Dr. Bonehead said, in my comments one week, he was like, it was this chapter's week, he was like, so Enkidu is nothingness, and he's the same kind of blue color as Calivan's essence of nothingness, so is that the, like, of course it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, kind of jokey, but is there some connection with, like, the idea of nothingness in Tower of God with the essence of nothingness, and then Enkidu being nothing, because that's a part of what the thing that Mixeth said about him is that he is nothing, but he can become anything. So I think the reason that he can't climb, the reason that some weird parasite might count as human, but Enkidu doesn't count as human, is because Enkidu is literally nothing. And then he can't become a new human being, but he can take over an existing one. Again, we have this manipulation from Hedon. And not only is this part manipulative, but he goes and he points out the specific body that he wants him to go into, which is crazy. Also, it's weird here that some of these people look like beastkin. I guess maybe they're just naturally occurring beastkin, or just people with beast-like traits that aren't actually beastkin. Or maybe... No, that wouldn't make sense. Never mind. I was going to say maybe this is so far back that the beastkin experiment already happened, but this is pre the time of war. Also, when, like, the world was in chaos here again, this was a time of chaos and all that stuff, I think what that's referring to is that imagine you're living in the tower, you're in one of these kingdom, and the Hook says, so he's basically like AI. I guess. It's like, he can talk like a person, and he has, like, a sentience. I mean, he's like AI in movies, not like real-life AI. Real-life AI isn't that advanced yet or anything. But it's like Enkidu has, like, a personality, an ego, so to speak, but he isn't a real thing. He, like, at least not yet. He's like, again, he's nothing. But, I think the time of chaos is because, let's say you're living in one of the kingdoms that isn't so far away from the inner tower that you have no clue what's going on. You probably have seen the effects of Zahard and his group of warriors climbing the tower for the first time that we know of. And even before then, we know if Hedon's making deals with people, maybe people were already able to climb the tower. It seemed like back in Season 2, when they were like, oh, they had to climb by taking the administrator's test, and then they set up their own testing. It seemed like nobody climbed before them, but I think maybe just nobody climbed all the way from bottom to top, so to speak, like the full way like they did, but I don't know. Because here it's making it seem like people could climb before. But what I get from this is, you're in these kingdoms, you hear, oh, climbing the tower is a possibility, going to higher floors and all that, and then all of a sudden, word goes out, the person who's climbed the highest so far is Zahard, locks off the top floor, you can't reach the top. Imagine the way that affects you in an existential level. Maxime says maybe humans have souls and that's the criteria. Good point. Really good point. Enkidu might not have a soul, and that's what makes him not human, because we literally know from White and stuff that souls are a thing that physically exist in Tower of God. So yeah, he might just not have a physical soul. And then Maxime says, is Mixeth an irregular or not? That's so confusing. We don't know. It wasn't said that he was, but I like the idea that there are irregulars other than Zahard and the family heads. I like that idea. And I also kind of like the idea that that's who the gods were. The god of nature. I like the idea that the god of nature, or the god of machines, were people like irregulars that came in and climbed the tower before Zahard, and were just so ancient, like maybe hundreds of thousands of years ago, just so ancient that they became revered as gods. I think that concept is interesting. And maybe they didn't get immortality contracts and they eventually died after hundreds of thousands of years. But I like the idea that there are older, just super ancient irregulars, and maybe even the gods were those. And Mixeth, Mixeth maybe as well, because how else does the workshop exist outside and inside the tower unless Mixeth has some sort of connections to the outside of the tower? And Mixeth might just have those connections in general, but he's not sharing them. He just isn't letting everybody know what he knows. And then Folded Ghoul says, well, didn't the workshop exist before the climb? And if it exists outside it exists outside the tower, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it exists both inside and outside, and it existed before they climbed. So yeah, exactly. So with all of that in mind, he has to have some connection to the outside, whether Macbeth's an irregular himself or whether he has some method of communicating with the outside, either or, something like that. Or maybe Macbeth knows about the machine god, and maybe the machine god was an irregular and created the machines and left them behind that Zahard and the family heads fought against. But I think if you're living in this tower, imagine the existential stuff. If you're like, okay, there's more to this world, and imagine if, again, one day you just found out that a human built a barrier around the earth and it's indestructible, and no one can ever, like, the sunlight can still come in and stuff, but nobody can ever go back out. Nobody can ever go out to space. We can never go and see what else there is out in the universe. We are forever going to be trapped right here. This is all there's going to be. Like, before, there was the concept, maybe you could reach the top of the tower. Maybe you could escape the tower. But when Zahard locks off the top, all those people in the tower, like, fall into chaos because nobody can reach the top anymore. Like, all the energy from challengers dissipated, because with Zahard climbing, there were probably a bunch of challengers who saw Zahard climbing and was like, yeah, let's explore, let's climb, let's get to the top. And getting to the top's no longer an option once Zahard seals it off. So I think that would throw just this society of Tower of God into absolute chaos. And then we have original, RIP to original Enkidu. This guy got his whole identity hijacked. And again, specifically him is the body that Head-On wanted to give to the creature. We see Traumeré. I love him using his creatures here, the odd-eyed cobra, the wolf, the badger, the turtle. And then we have Enkidu coming in. He says, hey, what's up? And that's the end of that one. We can just move to the next one. We know what's going to happen here. I've come to be your friend as you commanded me. And I love that Traumeré genuinely seems happy. He, like, genuinely feels like he's a friend. Maxime saying Macbeth is a machine god. I think, what if Macbeth was the machine god? Or at least knew the machine god? We've been getting more and more lore drops more and more often with these gods that the people worshipped before the family heads arrived. So, like, what if that is just a thing? Like, what if we just learn more and more about them and they're like, oh yeah, Macbeth knows all about these gods that existed before the family heads got here because the workshop was here before they got here. And these are just like the new gods coming in. Kind of like, aren't there a lot of mythologies like that? Like, weren't like the Titans the original gods in Greek mythology, and then the gods of Olympus came in and overthrew the original gods and were the next generation? And I think Norse mythology, didn't they have like the old primordial gods and they were like replaced by the Aesir gods or something like that? I'm not super well versed in all that stuff, but that's kind of a thing that was in mythology a lot. So it's kind of like the 10 family heads are coming in and becoming these new gods that are taking over after the old gods. I love that Traumeré seems like genuinely a friend to Enkidu, though. He, like, actually, even though later on he's like, you're not part of us, at the same time it genuinely feels like he views Enkidu as a friend. I've seen people bring up, why was he using why was Traumeré using his creatures to fight when he can just tear this thing apart? This thing's neat as well. When he can just tear it apart with Shinsu, and I think it's a matter of effort. Like, it wouldn't take me much effort to sprint everywhere I go. Oh, I need to use the bathroom? Let me sprint to the bathroom. I want some more water? Let me sprint to the kitchen. Like, it wouldn't take that much effort for me to do that, honestly, but why would I? So, like, while it wouldn't take that much crazy effort for Traumeré to defeat this thing with Shinsu, it's like, if he doesn't have to put in that much effort, why would he if he can just use his creatures?
Full Eagle says plot twist Zahard block true access beyond floor 134 to stop Maxeth, the true villain. That'd be neat. And Maxime said there are 12 main Olympus gods and Zeus is the ruler. And there's been a lot of potential parallels drawn, like between Dionysus or Dionysius, between Dionysus and Cunedwan. There have been lots of parallels brought up, or like between Zeus and Zahard being the head of the pantheon. There have been parallels brought up between them here. But yeah, what I was bringing up is I think there were like an original set of kind of gods before that they took over for. But again, not 100% sure. Or the Titans or whatever. But this thing is neat. I wanted to bring up here the differentiation that I draw between ancient creatures and the ancient giant. Or the native ones, rather. So when these things show up, they're called ancient creatures in Korean. But when we get the backstory for, like the backstory that Edwan gives for the ancient giant is called the ancient giant. There's ancient creatures and the ancient giant. It seems like it's one specific ancient creature. And the ancient giant split itself into 5 parts. And those 5 parts and their descendants were called native ones, which in Korean is just native one. They literally use the English loan words for native one. So the ancient giant's descendants, the parts it split itself into, are the native ones. That's what I view Rak as, that's what I view the elephant and the buffalo as, and it split itself into 5 parts that can control 5 elements, and I think they're all going to be animal people like that. Rock's a crocodile person, Kilhelm has the water buffalo humanoid, then there's the elephant humanoid with Evankel. I think the other 2 that control the other 2 elements, maybe it's like 5 branches. Like Rak could be the part that split off from the ancient giant, or Rak could be a descendant, which is what Edwan said at first. Edwan said that Rak was a direct descendant of one of the 5 parts that split off. Now Siu could actually go, Rak is actually one of the 5 parts himself. He could do that, but I don't really think so. There was a weird translation when we got the Rak power-up where Dumas said like, oh, it's the main body or a main body, and what like a better translation would just be like a physical body. He's like, it's been a while since I saw a physical body, like, because he would know about these native ones existing, but a lot of them seem to be inhabiting other people, like Evankel, like Kilhelm. So it's been a while since he saw Rak, an actual native one in the flesh. I don't think that means that Rak is like the main body. I just think it means he's like an actual flesh and blood native one. But I think that the ancient creatures are different. The ancient giant and this thing and Akranak, they're all their own separate things. I don't think Akranak is a descendant of the ancient giant. I think Akranak is its own unique thing. I think it's just a different ancient creature, just like this thing is a different ancient creature. I don't think this thing is a descendant of the giant. I just think it's its own thing. I think all the descendants of the giant will be animal people like Rak the elephant and the buffalo. And also with crocodile, elephant, and water buffalo, those are all creatures that are native to Africa. So when we see the other 2, they might also be animals that are native to Africa. Like there could be a lion that controls one of the other 2 elements. There could be, I think lion's one of the coolest options. Hyena's a neat option. Leopard is a neat option. But it could be things, a rhino maybe, something like that, I think would be like what the other 2 are. And the 5 elements, if I remember correctly, were fire, plants, rocks, water, and something that looked like crystals or maybe ice. So who knows what that 5th element is. So we still need to see who controls water and who controls that 5th one. And I actually think the 5th might be metal, just because in the West, whenever we talk about like the elements or whatever, we usually talk about like fire, wind, water, and earth. But Maxime says camel, and then we usually talk about those as our 4 elements, but when you talk about like China, Korea, Japan, when you talk about East Asia, they usually go by the 5 elements: fire, fire, water, wood, metal, and earth. So I think that last element might be metal. I think we might go for those as the 5 elements. Or Siu's doing his own thing and it is actually just like ice or something. But to me, ice and water are kind of the same in a way, or at least related. But continuing on from there, just wanted to talk about Native 1 stuff because I enjoy doing so. And because we just got into this stuff with the ancient creature. And he calls himself Lopobia Enkidu, giving himself Traumare's last name, which is neat. And again, they became best friends, and we don't know how long this sequence here lasted. They go on a beach trip together. He taught Enkidu how to fight. So this whole exchange could be dozens, if not... He showed him the world. Could be dozens, if not hundreds of chapters for all we know. This castle's really awesome. This, I think, is important. What is this? Because this looks like real. And we know from what Edwan said that Edwan had not met... the family heads hadn't met Enkidu yet by the time of the party. So this isn't one of the family heads' castles. So if this isn't one of the family heads' castles, whose castle is this? What is this place? It's gorgeous. I love this design. The inner part, like I was just trying to think, does this resemble anything in real life? Does this resemble anything from any other franchise that I know of? Not really. The little middle inner part kind of reminds me of Drangleic Castle from Dark Souls 2, but not the outer pentagon bit. So I have no idea what that could be based on. Even with just a little bit of research, I haven't been able to figure anything out. Sorry, I really need more water. Not used to talking this much, you know? I mean, I record for a couple hours at a time, but I'm really winning the election for mayor of Yapsville tonight. And then we have Traumare's companions. They thought it was odd. They're like, you're friends with a person, not an animal. So this is cool. We have this person with the blonde hair. Who is this with the blonde hair? I know the common joke is Rachel's mom because everybody always theorizes that everyone is Rachel's mom. Is this Tupari? Perhaps is Tupari a woman? Who is this? Just another one of their companions? I mean, it doesn't look like Amizu's hair whatsoever, so you would think not her. And then he gave him his administrator contracts. And also, because Traumare at this point views not just the family heads... sorry. He views not just the family heads, but their entire climbing team as them. As us. He views them all as one group. And specifically, when up against Tiara, Enkidu says that the Trailblazers of the tower are the ones that his power doesn't work on. And since he made this contract back when Traumare viewed the entire team as us, the Trailblazers of the tower, I wonder if that is going to mean that not just the family heads, but any of Traumare's climbing team is immune to Enkidu's contract. Which means that they would be able to kill Enkidu, the only people to be able to kill Enkidu. So for example, Murchia showing up in the present, Murchia could potentially kill him maybe. Or they wouldn't be able to be insta-killed by him. Since those are his two contracts. And then we have Enkidu was always bothered by the presence of this woman. This is something else I want to bring up. We have Amizu. And I've been saying Amizu, that's the way they're spelling it. So after reading this chapter, let me check chat real quick before I continue. Maxime says the ice castle from Bloodborne. Canehurst? Is that what it was? Canehurst? No. Yeah? I forget what it was called. The one with Martyr Ligarius. Yeah, I forget what it was called. I think that was it. But so Amizu, after reading this, I went and I read the Korean version of the chapter, and I actually brought up Google Translate here so we can talk about some name stuff. And actually, let me put my headset on so I can listen while we're doing this. Hold on. Hold on. Sorry if this makes a little bit of noise bumping into my desk to grab my headset. Let me put this on. Let me grab this. And then I've got Google Translate. Let's see. Can you all see this? And tell me if this is too loud or too quiet. I'm going to put it at -10 decibels. Hopefully this isn't too loud. I had it cranked down way low when I did my reaction to the trailer, and it was too low. The Hook says, I'd like to hear your predictions of who ends up dead by the end of the war arc. The current war, I think Kirin has a good chance of dying. I think Traumery has a good chance, but Gastang would be a more interesting twist. I don't know. Tower of God, a lot of people don't die that much. Like, minor characters might die here, but as for, like, important characters, I think maybe Kirin, maybe Lobaton, but I'm not quite sure. I think Enkidu has a good chance to die. Enkidu, I think, has a very good chance to die. Traumery could die. But again, like I said, Traumery could die, and it feels like Traumery has a lot of death flags. But me personally, I think that Gastang would be a crazier twist as far as the writing goes, and I think it could be written really, really well with the way Gastang's character's been going, the way he's penitent, he wants to make up for his crimes as a family head and all that. He wants Revolution to be the one to kill him, which is what Belarir was saying, where Belarir's like, as a family head, he can't really take himself out, so he needs, people like us to take him out. But I'm going to use this just so I can type some stuff out. Google Translate, you can see. So for Amizu's name in Korean characters are usually made up of like a consonant, a vowel, and it can just be two parts. It can be consonant, vowel, or it can be 3 parts, consonant, vowel, vowel, or consonant, vowel, consonant. And Amizu's got 3 characters here. There is, this means silent at the beginning. There's like no consonant at the beginning, and just and that's the first character. And I have to make a space because I actually still don't know how to type with this without making spaces between each individual character. And then her the second character name is Ma, and which is usually just silent. And then lastly, at first I thought it was this, which is S, but it's actually J. I read it wrong at first. So that's how Amizu is spelled. And to play it for you, tell me again if this is too loud or too quiet.
아무즈 아무즈
So I think Amizu, it's fine. It's really like j, really. And again, you see it down here with the J, because there's technically no Z in Korean. There's no Z sound, so they just use J, which is why Zahard is translated as jihad in the official.
아무즈
So you've got that. Just seeing if anybody, is that too quiet? Did everybody hear it all right? I know there's a bit of a delay, so I'll wait a second, get some more water. Just want to make sure everybody can hear. Oh, and also, what's screwy is I forgot to remove this. Right? Nope, that's wrong. Nope, that's wrong too. What is... There it is. Sorry. And I am blocking this. Hold on. Let me move over to the top right. Get rid of this. That's what it is. Amizu. There we are. Sorry. Totally mess. Okay. We'll hear how to pronounce her name in Tower of God Season 10 in 2054. So this, like, the... whatever I'm playing here, so long as you can hear it, I'll crank it up a little bit more. See if this is... Can you hear this?
아무즈,
That is how it would be. Sounds okay? Okay. My assumption had been her name was Spanish inspired. Might be. I have no idea. No idea what CU's going for. Because I would think some people said, oh, they might be going for a muse. But here's the thing. U is a vowel sound in Korean. So if what CU was going for was a muse, I would think, let me remove this middle character. I would think it would be M, and I believe this is U. So I would think that's what it would be. Now, Yirang is actually to do that one as well. Yirang is that, but there's actually a space here, and then there's and at the end of a character that's that's what Irang is. And there's a space for some reason. I know spacing in Korean is important, but I don't know why there's a space in the middle of Irang's name. So there's this,
이랑,
which is E, which is just like an I. Korean people often romanize it as Lee, or Yi, which is the same character in Yiwa, or in Shibisu, because Yiwa is, or should be, let me go back again, would be Ha, and then Wa would be, I think Wa is O, and then Ah. Yiwa. Yeah, that's it.
이화,
That's Iwa. And same for Shibisu. Shibisu is, or Shiplisu, is that. And then this can be pronounced as either B or P. And then there's a space. And then there's E and Su, which is this. So that's,
십이수,
yeah, Shiplisu or Shibisu or Shipisu.
십이수,
Yeah. So just wanted to bring up some of that name translation stuff. And then the hook says, I also agree with your take on the deaths. I really like Traumer as a character, and it'd be a shame to see him go. I also have a sort of gut feeling that Gastong's asking to die. I feel like Gastong's whole thing is that he wants to get the ball rolling on revealing the history to the tower, giving the people of the tower the Shinwan Ryu Fitbit technology and stuff like that. And I also think that he probably wants to free Eurasia N. So I think that it would be a tragic but beautiful story if Gastong dies, but in a way that leads to N being freed, in a way that leads to the truth being spread to the tower. I think that if he dies in a way that does that stuff, it's like a really big death. Like if Gastong dies, but his death is to spread the truth, to free Eurasia and stuff like that. So it might not be now, it might not be till later on. And we also don't really know what's going on with Yurik. I think it'd be a more interesting story if Urik couldn't save everybody, but Urik wants to save all the family heads, so it's like, I don't know. I think it'd be an interesting story if he couldn't save them all and somebody died, but maybe somebody could die. I'm not sure. But hold on, let me mess with something really quick, and then we'll get back to this chapter. And actually, hold up. Before I get back to this chapter, I need to put this back up here, and I'll go back to the top left. Just let me know if you ever want me to move around a bit. So yeah, let's go here, and then back to Amizu. Her name was Amizu, okay. Falling in love. I don't want to read every single thing, just because I feel like that'd take up even more of your time. Okay. Sorry, I was just taking that back in, because again, it's been a little bit since I read this one. It's been a week or so. Okay. And I think this is interesting too, because the way she's talking is like, And it's the same way that Edwan and them talk next chapter. It's like, we know you, Traumerei. We know that you can't help but trying to control people and stuff like that. But Traumerei does genuinely, at least from his perspective, think, no, Enkidu's my friend. He's totally my friend. But the rest of them are like, okay, he's your friend now. How long before you try to control him, though? Again, resisting temptation to ruin. I'm sorry, I almost dropped my headset. I'm gonna sit it over here. And then we have that. Her asking if he still loves her. Her again with the butterfly pendant, maybe meaning she was friends with Mircea or Arlen or whoever the original like butterfly is meant to represent. And then, of course, we continue from there. We have her birds are communicating with somebody on the outside. I think that's cool, though. She's an anima that controls birds, presumably, which means she kind of fits with Traumerei. I think that's cute. And then again, the people in his companion group are us, and people outside that are not us. I love the visualization here of Enryu just being made to feel like that creature again, just made to feel like the cube of jello again. And then we see the visualization of him within the fishbowl. Really, really good stuff. Day of the party arrives. Making sure I didn't miss anything. Again, if any of you have stuff to point out that I may have missed, just let me know. Just looking at some of the background stuff there. Again, I love how so much of this looks like Kirin's ship and all of Kirin's stuff. I love the new outfits for the two of them. Amizu's outfit's good, or her outfit is good too, but I like Enkidu's and Traumerei's more. Alright, we have all the random servants. I'm kind of scrolling a lot, so I was just stopping to check chat while I was going through all this. Got the arrival of Hon and Edwan. And let me just tell you, Edwan for next chapter is like the highlight. Edwan is so good. His character's really good here. So we got Edwan with these two, who may be children of his already, especially the one on the right here. They look like they could be children of Edwan's already. We have leader of the Kun family, Kun Edwan. We see Hon. Hon actually just looks like really kind of normal. It's funny because we've had White and Joaquin for so long, who just always wears a crown, big extravagant outfits, and just looks really, 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 really important or flamboyant. And then you have Hon here, and Hon is just way, way more muted than Joaquin is. And we have these same people with Hon who were with him in the Joaquin flashback, and the Joaquin flashback is like... The Joaquin flashback is like more detailed with the two of them than this chapter. But this guy, at least, at the very least, does not look REA to me. Is he another of their climbing team that climbed with them and who became a servant of his? Or is he just a general Towerborn servant of his? Did he get all the bandages from being cut up by Hon? Like, what is this guy's story? We have some of the jokey stuff with them. We have Yirang here. And I've talked about this a bit before. Yan Yirang's name was changed from Yan Hana, and there is this chance that Yan Hana was always meant to be a placeholder name, never the actual real name. But there's also a chance that she could change her name to Yan Hana later on. Or I absolutely love the theory that she splits herself into Yan Hana and Yan Iarde, because we have always been questioning. We have always been like, how is Yan Iarde having kids for the Yeon family without being an irregular? And maybe that's the answer, is that the irregular split herself into two parts. So Yan Hana, one half, is staying the virgin family head and is keeping the ego of Yirang, but Yan Iarde is maybe Yan Iarde doesn't have the ego of Yan Yirang, and she's just the half that has the kids, and maybe also the half that has the memories, because we know that they're all putting away memories in their own unique ways. What if her unique way of putting away memories is to split herself and to put her memories in this other part of herself? And I really don't think that seems out there as a concept, given that we already have Gustang making writing children. If you can make children out of writing, then I think somebody splitting themselves into two is not any less crazy than that. Folded Goal says, I was literally typing out a message asking if there was an explanation for a name change. This is one of those times where it'd be amazing if we still had the blog posts, because CU could explain it in the blog post. I did see one person say, I didn't do my own research, so I can't confirm, that Hana is a name that means like number one or the number one or the first or something like that. So Hana could have always just been a placeholder name for the head of the Yon family because of that. Or again, it could be that her name ends up getting changed. I think there's a solid chance of that, maybe. So we have this stuff. Everybody fawning over the family heads. And again, are these just random wives of them? Are they random guests? And other guests? Then Blossom can't come because she's sleeping. We get a Blossom reference, which is really, really cool. I think people... I saw people joking around. They're like, isn't it funny? Isn't it convenient that the ones that Traumeré likes are the ones we already know, but the ones that aren't coming are the ones that we don't know? And I don't actually think that's a great criticism, because we know about Yurin. We've seen a lot of Yurin, and Yurin's not coming to this. And also, we didn't know or see any of Yirang, and Yirang did come to this. We're seeing Yirang for the first time. So I think, there's one we did know about that's not here, one that we didn't know about that is here. So I think that, it's not necessarily that. But I will say I can't wait to get to see Blood Matter. I can't wait to see Blood Matter. Blood Matter, according to the blogs, was supposed to be close friends with Edwan. So it's interesting that he's tight with Edwan, but not really with Traumeré. At this point in the timeline, Yurin and Arihan might have been together, so that might be why neither of them is coming. They're together at this time. And then there's Tupari, who we still know nothing about in the main story. Right. Going through all this stuff. And we're about to, this is just giving us our hints at the end of the announcement that she's going to make. But then we have that in this chapter. So let's go through this one. This is our most recent chapter until tomorrow's. And then I guess I'll talk a little bit about tomorrow. So tomorrow, actually even before I go into this, tomorrow the first episode of Anime Season 2 is going to come out. I'll try to do a reaction to it. I'm a little bit nervous though. I don't usually do those kinds of reactions, so I'm not sure how to do it and make it good. And also, I'm worried that I'm just going to think it's mid. Because here's the thing. From what we've seen so far, I think it looks like it's going to be good, but not great. I think it looks like it's going to be a solid anime, but not to the level of quality that Season 2, early Season 2 of the manhwa is. Because early Season 2 of the manhwa is nuts. Folded Goal asking live, originally I was, but I think I'm actually going to record it. That way I can edit out any long pauses where I'm just watching and not saying anything. Do you all want it a full reaction? Do you want me to watch the full episode and just post the full thing? Or just edit out any silence when I'm not talking so that you can have a 20-ish, 15, 20-ish minute reaction, but it's edited down to just me reacting to stuff happening and talking about stuff happening. I guess it depends on which you would rather have. I'm actually not going to do it live though, just because I've thought about it copyright wise. I feel like if I record it instead, then I can try to upload it. And if I have copyright issues, I can edit it a different way, maybe put a filter over it. And if I still have copyright issues, I can edit it a different way. And I can just if I record it instead of doing it live, I can try to do different things. Fold Ghoul says, I'm actually sad they made the art style so much more generic than season 1. Despite story issues, I like the animation style a lot. I loved season 1's animation style. I had my issues with season 1, but my issues, like you said, were all just story stuff. I think that season 1 looked good. A lot of people complained about it. I even saw a lot of people with season 2 coming out saying that, oh yeah, season 1 was so ugly, the animation was awful. And I'm just like, I watch a lot of anime. And I don't know what the heck you're talking about. I don't get what you're yapping on about. I think it looks fine. I think it looks good. Like, it's not the best looking anime ever for like 2024 standards, but it was 4 or 5 years ago at this point. And like, anime these days is nuts. And that's why I think that season 2 here is gonna be solid, but it's not like as solid as it looks like it's going to be. It's gonna be hard for it to compete with some of the crazy things we've seen lately. And it's kind of a bummer that I don't think it's going to compete with some of those things. But then again, I don't know. I would happily be wrong. I would be so happy if it was like one of the best anime ever. I would love that. I think, though, as long as they get the story right, even if the visuals are mid, if they kill the story, if they nail the story, I think that's going to be good enough. It says we're on ad break for some of you, so sorry about that if you don't have ad block or whatever, if it's not working. So I'll just keep yapping about what I'm going to do tomorrow. So tomorrow I will, have you seen Freyrin? Haven't gotten to it yet. If you watch the anime stuff, I'm going to do Freyrin for like winter 2024 when I get to it, but I still have to go through every season of 2023. So I am still pretty behind on anime. I talked about it a lot in the anime stream I did, and I'm actually going to be doing another anime stream soon. I wanted to do it this week, but I was like, I know if I stream that the whole time, people are going to be like, where's the Tower of God stream? And I was like, okay, need to do the Tower of God stream first. So I've been trying to get time to do this stream first. And so next stream I'll do another anime stream where I talk about, where I talk about summer of 2024 and what I might watch for that. I'm going to watch every PV and decide on what I might watch when I get to summer 2024. But yeah, tomorrow I'll do a video on the anime if possible. If it takes too long, I'll maybe have to push it back to Monday. I will at the very least record it tomorrow. I'll record it tomorrow, but if I don't get time to post it until Monday, it is what it is. But I want to focus more on the manhwa, so definitely the manhwa will be up as usual tomorrow night. Folded Ghoul says, Freyrin might be my favorite anime of all time. It is one of the most highly rated of all time. It is nuts, the ratings it got. W story, W character is absolutely beautiful adaptation. And the Hook says, okay, it's absolutely beautiful in terms of story and soundtrack. You'll love it. I can't wait to get to it. It looks amazing. Maxim says, story's everything. I watched Fate Stay Night 2006 and was pleasantly surprised and liked it on par, if not more than the other routes. That's good to hear. I think that's totally true. As long as they, like, early season 2 is arguably Tower of God's best storytelling. Like, what this season's going to cover, Core 1 going from the start of this all the way, presumably, to the end of Hand of Arlen, and then, Core 1 of this, and then Core 2 being Workshop Battle, I think that is some of the best stuff writing-wise in all of Tower of God. So if they nail the story, even if the visuals are just okay, I think as long as they hit the story and if the direction holds up, then I think it's going to be great. Because direction is massive, massive too. I think that to me is make or break, where you can have particle effects flying everywhere, but if you just have bad direction, and anime's just going to be paced wrong, it's not going to look creative, but you can have mid visuals, but I mean mid visuals detail wise, but if direction wise you have these really great shot compositions and this really creative decision making in how you're portraying the story, then and pacing the story out, then you can have a lower budget and still have a killer anime. But yeah, I'll be doing that tomorrow, and of course I'll be doing the manhwa tomorrow. And if I have time on top of both of those, also Boku no Hero Academia will be tomorrow. But after speaking on that real quick, let's go through this. We have Edwan. Is that one of his many wives that he's flirting with here? And then, again, we talk about the mechanoids here. That is so interesting. Like, I think mechanoids are how they're translating the people from, like, the Machine Nation or whatever. Is Icarus going to be one of those? I'm really excited to learn more about that lore, and just the lore of them climbing. Everybody always talks about how much more they want to see them like the Great Warriors climbing. I think it might be a little bit too early to give us the full thing, but whenever we do get the full thing, that's going to be one of the most exciting times in the series. You have Chumry and Enkidu going out. Again, Edwan is so great with all of his interactions with all these characters this chapter. So good. And then Enkidu making some bad mental decisions here. Like, these are some bad moves that he's planning out. Okay. And then I like that we get Enkidu's takes on the family heads here. Like, Enkidu being like, okay, Yirang is beautiful and elegant, but she's actually terrifying. Edwan gets along with everyone. He seems like a really great guy, but he's always eyeing people up. Like, he's always sizing people up. He's always like, he has that little tinge of manipulation in him. He's being friendly with everyone, but you can tell there's a calculation to it. And Gaston is edgy. He's arrogant. Everyone calls him a psychopath. That is just so Gaston. That is everybody's description of Gaston. And then, sorry, just glancing through, the Hook said, yeah, I mean, start of season 2 is the real start to Tower of God, so they have to nail it for it to be good. Maxime says, music and sound design must be good. They can compensate for flaws in animation. I think it all looks like it's going to be pretty aight. That's the thing. Everything I've seen so far, nothing looks bad. From all of the previews, I haven't watched the big, like, 10-minute preview thing they put out, because I want to go into it as blind as possible. Actually, do you want me to do, yeah, if the fighting animation looks average, good sound design can make it look great, and then the Hook mentioning that Kevin Penkin's still doing the soundtrack. Yeah. So I think that everything I've seen so far, just from the trailers and stuff, again, I've stayed away from the big preview, it all looks like, none of it looks bad. It all just looks good. I don't think any of it, to me, like, none of it blows me away. None of it is like blowing me away, incredible compared to so many things that I've been seeing in recent years. But I think it all looks good. I think none of it looks bad or even really particularly mid. It all looks solid. So I think if it can just be solid, I mean, I don't think it'll be the best anime ever, but I think it could do pretty well. I'm trying to be hopeful. I'm trying to be optimistic, and I'm really, really hoping that I like it. What I just thought about, though, is, do you want me to, when I do my big reaction, do you want me to upload my opening and ending reaction separately and then do my full reaction to the full episode too? Like, I could watch the opening, do a reaction to that, watch the ending, do a reaction to that, and then watch the full episode? Do you want me to do separate opening and ending reactions, or just the episode? Just let me know. But this is totally, fully Gaston. Aryehon is always by himself, and I think that this is purposeful. I think that Aryehon is here sizing up this party, the people there. He probably does care about them to a certain degree, but we know he's kind of a cold, arrogant, kind of a wild guy from some of the stuff he said to Joaquin and the way we know he runs his family. So I think he's really kind of sizing up the party. And we see with him being the one to confront Murchia later on, that I think Aryehon is here just because of this stuff. He may have even been sent by Zahard. Zahard can see fate. Did Zahard see this stuff coming and send Aryehon? And then again, here's where we have Tromre's friends and the various guests. So Traumare's friends are there, but there's also the various guests. So the various guests, I guess, are just filler characters, maybe not people that climbed with them, just important people in the tower, the nearby area maybe, and various guests are here. We have Hate, which is really, really cool. Again, I wonder if any of these characters we're seeing will ever be seen again. Like, are any of these people going to be important in any way? And then the moment came for the grand finale. And she makes her decision. And I think it's very interesting where she's like, we have changed. Again, so many miracles along the way, moments they feared the worst. Their journey sounds so cool. And she helped them climb. And it's like, she cares about them, but she doesn't like the way that Traumare is changing. She doesn't like the way that they're all changing from who they were when they were climbing. Yeah, sorry, just glancing at chat. And then we don't know who these two are. Are these people who are actually, are they more Edwan groupies? Are they more Edwan wives? Or are they people that climbed the tower with them? And then we've changed a great deal. We see her bird. We get Gastang. We get these people here. And again, all of these people have the glow around them, but the one behind the pillar, especially strong. Is the one behind the pillar since we just saw the bird, is that a disguised Mircea for all we know? Or all of the people with glows around them members of the climbing team, and that's just, they constantly have that glow because of their power level. But the thing with that, I've seen people bring up that as a theory. The issue is that CU's inconsistent with it. A lot of the time, the family heads are presented with these glows around them, but then sometimes people who aren't family heads are also presented with it, and sometimes the family heads aren't presented with it. I think it's just like manga does, where manga often does that with characters. I think it's just this cutout effect around them to create a layering when the, like, one of the assistants draws a background and then another of the assistants draws these characters or like finishes up these characters, and then they plop them onto the background, and instead of trying to merge the way they're angled, the way they're standing with the background, they throw some of this like white glowiness behind them in order to layer them from the background. I just think it's that. It isn't Mircea because he arrived later on the bird. True. He could be using the bird to move from place to place, though. I don't know. And then, this isn't anyone's fault. Pains me to say this. I don't think it's Mircea either, to tell you the truth. I think this is somebody different, somebody unique. But the fact that some of these people, like the two that were with Edwan, now these people, the way that some of them seem more unique in their designs just makes me wonder, are they potentially going to end up being important members of that group in future flashbacks? Who knows? I mean, not like crazy important, but moderately important. Like actual climbing members, even if they're not important climbing members. And then getting dumped in front of the whole party. And I don't think it's just that, like, it's not some cruel calculated move to dump him in front of the party. And I saw somebody saying, oh, what if it was for her protection so that Traumare didn't do anything bad to her? And I don't think it's that either. I think it's that she wanted to be honest with her friends. She wanted to have her friends together and be like, hey, I gotta be honest with you. I think we've changed and we gotta go our separate ways. This isn't just a breakup with Traumare. Though that's the most important breakup, it's also a breakup with all of her friends. And then the party ends, people go home, all the guests slip away except for Traumare's closest friends, which means the red guy is one of Traumare's closest friends. This is a very good scene as well, where it's like that thing when you have your old friends who have been your friends for over a decade, but then you get these new friends and you might really like them, but you haven't known them that long in comparison. It's like just these different levels of friendship, really. We have Gastang kicking the door in. Then Gastang and Edouan just roasting Traumeré after he gets dumped publicly in front of everybody. Edouan is really great. And then we have all of this. Enkidu, again, instead of just going in there trying to support him, he's like, no, I can't. I'm not one of those kinds of friends. And honestly, it's like Enkidu's kind of self-sabotaging in a way. Alright. And then this guy's here. I joked and said, Kirin's mom. Is this Kirin's mom? Jokes aside, though, I saw some people saying Quadrado a lot, and then people saying, I hope not. People saying Tupari, the God's Eye. But yeah, this is one of Traumeré's closest friends, apparently. Short Stuff says, are you reacting to the Season 2 sneak peek video? It's amazing. No, I'm going to watch the full episode tomorrow, and I don't want to spoil myself before the full episode. I don't want to spoil myself. But yeah, this guy's one of Traumeré's closest friends, one of the people who climbed the tower with him. Probably not Quadrado, because I feel like when we get Quadrado, we'll probably get a name box for him. So we have another, we have Amizu confirmed, we have this guy confirmed, we have Quadrado, we have Icarus, we have Mircea. So that's 5 people who climbed the tower with them that weren't irregulars that we know of. And then maybe many more at this party that we just don't know confirmed yet. And then at this point, Edouan has just already become a womanizer. Again, he's kind of already started his family, it looks like. Because he is announced as a family head. Whereas Traumeré wasn't announced that way yet. Edouan and Hone were, so they have presumably already started their families. Because again, this is probably taking course over decades, if not hundreds of years. All this stuff we've been seeing. And this is where he talks about it. I talked about this a ton at the beginning of the stream, so I guess I don't need to retread it too much, where he talks about putting his emotions away. Again, they've lost their memories that day, the day they stopped climbing and stuff. And Gastang here, I love that Gastang's like, yeah, our individual memories don't matter. What's important is the history that we pass down. But we know that current Gastang would beg to differ. Current Gastang is like, no, that's terrible. That's the complete wrong idea. So we know that at some point, I'm assuming it's just the N incident. I'm assuming the N incident, completely changes Gastang's mind and makes him have that flip, that change of heart. And then Zahard said, we're the leaders now, we have to act accordingly. And then he's like, he overrode his forgotten past emotions, because again, he doesn't remember his emotions anymore, and he replaces love with possessiveness. I must have her. Let me get some water. Voice is dying on me. Alright. Then, I love this conversation too. We see what Amizu saw in Traumeré. We see why she fell in love with him, even though we had this really funny scene of Yirang like, you're into that? But, again, we see what she saw in him. You know, he was genuine, and his genuineness was what she fell in love with. But he isn't genuine like that anymore. He's changed. And again, she stayed in contact with Grace because they said ever since that day she's been different. It's because she's always been on their side. She's always agreed with wanting to continue climbing the tower like Arlen's group. But she only stayed here because of Traumeré, because she loved him. But she can't keep doing it anymore because he's changed. And they've changed. And I like the way she's like, I don't blame you for making a different decision than me. I don't think it's that you're wrong and I'm right. I just think that I've reached my limits and I can't think the same way. We just have this disagreement. We're different now, where maybe we've always been different. Again. And again, what she can't stand is that he's changing. He's not that genuine person that she fell in love with. So, yeah. And then there was something else I wanted to say from this. Oh gosh, what was it? I lost my train of thought because I wanted to get through that last thought. Oh yeah, so they keep saying Grace, and I think Grace is probably referring to Arlen. A lot of people are like, oh, what if V's name is Grace, and that's why Marcia and Arlen take the name. I think Arlen's name is Grace. I really, really think that Arlen has a lot to do with this stuff. I think that Arlen has a lot of her own conviction. Arlen has a lot of her own decisions that she's made. Arlen wanted to keep climbing, and V agreed with her, and V was also in love with her. I think that, again, V Kermit's sewer slide, and after he does so, once V takes himself out, he leaves a note saying, go back and join the others. Just live in peace. It's not worth it anymore to try to climb. But she doesn't. She doesn't go back to the others. She instead leaves, to go to the outside god and to get her revenge, to send Bomb on revenge. So Arlen is quite possibly still alive and still bent on revenge. Do we get the kind of not good Naruto ending where Arlen comes in as the real final villain at the very end? We talked about that earlier in the stream, the potential final villain, final conflict and stuff. Is Arlen final villain territory? I think Arlen has a lot of her own, what's the word I'm looking for here? Agency, I guess. A lot of her own agency in these decisions. I think V agreed with her. It's not just one or the other, but I think Arlen had a lot of influence here. And then when we get to Marcia here, I'll talk a little bit more. Because we have the bird coming in. It brings in Marcia, probably to pick her up, I guess. He's rushing in. We have the slash coming through and cutting off his path before him. But again, we see he's dodging REA swordsmanship. Then again, Hone could have been not trying to kill him because they were part of the climbing team together. So we don't really know how they feel about each other quite yet. Next chapter, tomorrow night, I might know more about how they feel about each other. We have long time no see. Marcia is like in the past. REA Hone, which is an incredible face-off. Marcia stocks crazy high, facing off against Mazano, now in the past facing off against Hone. And I looked it up because I was like, they say Marcia Lizlek, not Grace Marcia Lizlek. In Korean, it does just say past Marcia Lizlek in that box. So he only has his purple eye here, not the gold eye. And he doesn't have the scar yet, and the scar is kind of a weird thing. People are really, really, really on this like V flesh fusing stuff, and I think people are so addicted to the V flesh fusing theory that I hate it. I have heard it so many times that it's made me hate it. V in general is becoming anime dad to me. Maxime said Arlen's Kaguya and Rachel's Zetsu. What if though? What if Arlen is Kaguya? That's like, I'm kind of thinking that. Short Stuff says, I wonder if the book Rachel read about Head-On being a fairy was one of the history books. True. Could be. I talked a little bit about that earlier with her saying that Head-On's like the fairy who grants wishes, and then we see him coming when people have wishes they need to be granted. And also how he's like a fairy in that he's offering these people deals, but his deals are kind of, there's always a catch, and there's always a downside. So I don't like the V flesh fusion like theory, and honestly, V to me is kind of getting the anime dad effect that I feel about Dragon, that I feel a little bit about Ishin. Ishin was never, meant to be that cool or anything. I don't want to hate on Ishin. That I think about Jing and Hunter x Hunter. But really it's Dragon. Dragon's the big one. V to me is getting the dragon effect, the Monkey D dragon effect, where they're constantly like, most wanted man in the world. And the fandom is like, oh, how hype is Dragon? How hype is Dragon? And this motherfucker abandoned his kid and proceeded to do nothing for forever. The biggest fraud on the planet. And I am just like, massive fraud. And for me, people hype up V so much when we've seen V do nothing except off himself in a flashback that I am just like, people hype him up so much that I start to be like, this guy's on fraud watch. I'm starting to not like him. I'm starting to not like V because people are hyping up this character that we know like nothing about so much and trying to connect every little thing to V. And I'm just like, I'm not as for it anymore. And then Folded Goal says sweats while looking east. Yeah. So, yeah, much like Dragon, I feel like V is getting so overhyped that I'm just like not feeling V as much anymore. But I think what could happen, one thing I saw a long time ago is like maybe the reason that Murchia uses spells, the reason that Murchia has the same surname as Arlen, is that Arlen adopted him, and maybe when she left the tower, she gave her power to Murchia. And that's why he's so strong too, like higher ranked than some of the family heads. And I think there's a really good, thing to like, I think that's a good thing to think, especially with the one golden eye now, like Bomb's golden eye. I think that the way he uses spells, like Arlen used spells, I think there's a solid chance that much like Zahard gives his abilities through the blood fusion or whatever, the way he gives some of his strength to the princesses, and some of the princesses are like crazy strong. I think Arlen may have done the same thing Zahard does, but to Murchia. I think Arlen may have adopted him, given him the Grace name like Zahard gives the princesses the Zahard name, and I think that Arlen may have given like her power or some of her power to Murchia before she left the tower. And that's why he is so strong and why he can use spells and all that. I think that might be it. And at this point, he didn't have the Grace name, and we have a look D East, says Maxime. So yeah, I think that he may have gotten some of Arlen's powers. Then let me check some stuff real quick before I move on. Okay. I think that it. Yep. All right. Well, we have credits. I'll throw the credits up here. I went through these 3, and before I end the stream, we can just talk about whatever you want to talk about. Any more topics you want me to get to? Anything you want me to talk about before we end? Now that I've been through these, talked about the anime a teeny bit. Short stuff. Do you think V actually killed himself, or do you think he may have been murdered? I think V did. I think V did off himself. Hold on, just checking stuff. I think V did take himself out because I think that's a part of the emotion of the story. Like, he and Arlen tried to keep climbing, but when they tried to keep climbing, they said that all the family heads were doing different stuff. They all had their different goals, and they came together to stop V and Arlen. And what we see right now in this flashback is that the family heads, they all have their different goals. They're tight, but they're kind of drifting apart. And maybe whatever happens at this party is a part of what brings them all back together, and they fight against V and Arlen. V and Arlen are defeated, and things go how we know they go. But when things go that way, and when things just aren't looking good for V and Arlen anymore, V takes himself out and says to Arlen, go join the others. And I think we could find out V was actually murdered, but I don't think there's that much emotion behind finding out, like for Bomb. Maxim says, why didn't he try to kill Zahard? Probably because Zahard is really strong, and Zahard has an immortality contract. V wasn't a regular. V wasn't a regular, though, even though he has the immortality contract. But maybe you need to take out, even if you're an irregular, maybe you need to do something about the contract first. I don't know. I think maybe V just wasn't as strong as Zahard. I think Zahard just might be the strongest. And if V tries to kill Zahard, and then Zahard has the 10 other family heads jump in, what can V do? And I think that, so say if you're Bomb. Bomb is the only one in our prime story to care about V right now. The only people that would care about V are Bomb, Murchia, who we barely know, and he's like a big force in the story, more than like a pared down character. V, the only people to care about V would be Arlen, Murchia, and Bomb. And Bomb wouldn't care about him that much because he's technically Bomb's biological father, but Bomb's never really met him. Bomb doesn't really know him. So to me, if it's like, actually, Zahard murdered your father, I don't think that difference means a ton to Bomb personally at this stage in terms of emotions. I don't think that us getting a flashback of V being murdered, and then Shortstuff says, I mean, what father won't get revenge if somebody murders their son? I just don't think that V could. I think that Zahard was just too strong. And Zahard had the other family heads. As strong as V was, I don't think he was strong enough to deal with Zahard and the other family heads. And maybe there is just this kernel of truth to what Traumaray is saying, where Traumaray is like, what Zahard's doing is for our own good. Maybe V is like, I want to kill Zahard because he killed my son and he's really weird about my wife, but if I kill him, maybe it messes up the whole ecosystem of the tower, or maybe it messes up whatever's going on with, like, maybe we'll never be able to climb again. Maybe that top floor, we need Zahard for it. Maybe he would rather try to bring back the old Zahard than to kill somebody who was his friend. But I think that just story-wise, emotion-wise, it's like finding out that V was killed doesn't really do much for us. It's like, for us, we see a flashback of V being killed, and it's like, who do we feel bad for? Do we feel bad? Like, we can feel bad a little bit, but I think it's much more tragic and makes it much more sad to see that V and Arlen were in a hopeless situation, and V tried to take himself out in order to convince Arlen to leave Arlen with no choice but to go back and to join their other friends. And Arlen didn't take that. Arlen instead said, you know what? I'm going to get revenge. I'm going to go do this. Or there's also the potential that V is just trying to make a big brain play and that he faked his death. There's also that chance. V could be playing the longest long game. He could still be alive and just faked it. Maxime said, Garam said things that motivate Bomb to kill Zahard. She could lie or she definitely lied. True. True, she did say things that would motivate Bomb to take out Zahard. And it's like, it feels like it would motivate him to kill Zahard even more if she was like, and actually Zahard didn't just kill you, she killed your father as well. But I don't think that's a big emotional moving point for Bomb. Like, Bomb has a lot of things that he cares about, like with his friends and everything, and he cares about general right and wrong, like, oh, Zahard did this thing and it was wrong. But I just don't think that V specifically would be a motivator for Bomb. And Maxime says, I don't trust anyone in Tower of Betrayal. I think that's fair. I think it's entirely fair to think that, again, there might be a grain of truth to what Traumaray is saying. What if Zahard, by doing all this crazy stuff he's doing, what if there's something incredibly, incredibly dangerous at the next floor up, and Zahard's actually legitimately trying to protect them from it? Or like this red horn thing that he's dealing with. What if Zahard sacrificed himself in some contract to the horn thing? And of course, like, I think to a certain degree, V and Arlen might be sketchy. Like so far, it feels like CU's tried to present like V and Arlen as the more just side when compared to the 10 heads in Zahard. But are they really the more just side? It's like, are we going to find out that there's a darker side to them? Especially when we're thinking about like Arlen, where, like I said, Arlen didn't escape the tower, get her child brought back to life and say, okay, now you can live a life on the outside with the stars above your head. Instead, Bomb was placed in that cave at some point, whatever that cave is meant to be, and Bomb was sent. She sent this this prophecy that she, I guess, kind of always planned to. I guess she kind of always just planned to send up Bomb for revenge. And then Maxim said, Zahard trying to stop Eldridge Lovecraftian horror while everyone else wants to open the gate. I think that could happen. I think there could be a twist like that, where there is just something really, really unknowably, untouchably bad, even for irregulars, even for godlike beings. There's just something really bad up on the next floor, like as far as the administrators go. And by not letting them climb, Zahard is kind of doing a little bit of an Itachi, maybe, in that he's doing a bad thing. He's doing a lot of bad things, but he's lying to protect everyone to a certain degree. I think there's a good chance of that. I think there's a good chance he's not fully evil or whatever. But yeah, any topics any of you want me to get to? If not, I'll end eventually. Like, I don't know, I can just chill. It doesn't really matter that much. I've got through all the things that I wanted to get to, and then whatever else you all want to get to, I can get to. And then tomorrow, we'll talk about the anime when I do the anime reaction. Then we'll have the chapter reaction. It depends on when the episode comes out. You would think it'd probably come out in the morning, so it'll probably be pretty early for me when the episode comes out. So I'll try to do it earlier in the day. Again, if it takes me too long to edit, too long to do all that, maybe I'm too busy, then I'll at least record it tomorrow, but it might not be up until Monday. But I'll be doing the anime. Will you react to the trailer of Bleach? What trailer of Bleach? I guess if you ever have things you want me to react to, leave them in my comments. Doesn't matter what video it's on, leave them in my comments. The third core, I still haven't watched the second core, but yeah, I can. But yeah, I still haven't watched the second core yet. I only watched the first core of 1000 Year Blood War. But yeah, if you want me to react, I can do that at some point. I'll do it as its own video, though. I don't think I'll do it live here as part of this. But I can totally do that. Again, if there's anything any of you want me to do, especially, I was going to say it when I do my next anime stream, if you want me to get to any anime openings, because Oshinoko Season 2 just started, so if you wanted me to do a reaction to the opening for that, I can. I've held back on watching the opening. I've held back on watching the opening for Shika no Konoko no Kokoshi Tantan, so if people want me to do a reaction to that opening, I can. Yeah, any openings, anything you want me to do reactions to, I can certainly try. I am already swimming in videos, swimming in streams I need to make. Speaking of streams and stuff, I just want to shout out all the other Tower of God creators. I feel bad because Naya did say he wants to stream together more often as Tower of God creators. So in the future, I want to do more streams with Naya. But again, I just did not know when I was going to be able to do this stream. This was just, I've been trying for 3 weeks to try to get free time to do this. And I just finally was like, okay, I'm going to try to do it tonight. Hopefully it doesn't storm or anything. Hopefully I don't run into any power issues. Short Stuff said, this is the first time watching you live and I really liked it. Thank you, Short Stuff. Maxime said, read Ragnar Crimson and Tenkaichi manga. Okay. So yeah, I am going to watch the Ragnar Crimson anime, I think, when I get to that section, of 2023. Or actually, that might count as 2024 for me. I don't remember what I was counting it as. But I'll get to Ragnar Crimson eventually. So I'll do it eventually. Let's see. There was something I was thinking about, but then I kind of forgot. So yeah, there's a lot of videos and streams I want to get to. I was talking about wanting to do more stuff with Naya. I felt bad because I was like, if any of you see me live and want to jump in, let me know. But... sorry, I was just checking again. I was like, if anybody sees me live, then wants to jump in a call, just let me know. But I couldn't give anybody any concrete times on when I was doing this, and then I'm doing it a Saturday night on a holiday weekend when a lot of people are going out. So even though he's Canadian, so it's a little different, but yeah, it's a Saturday night, and I'm doing it without warning anybody ahead of time, really. Just because my schedule's crazy. There's one thing, I already took notes to do a stream where I'm going to do a stream where I rank all of Bomb's teammates, and I'll make a tier list so we can use the tier list to like rank them. And I'm going to rank all of Bomb's teammates. I already talked to Ron Can, and Ron Can said he's interested in like doing the stream with me. So might do that with Ron Can. And I'd also, just because it fits in with like their content, I'd like to maybe see if Naya and Dr. Bonehead are interested in that too. So I'll probably reach out to them and see if they're interested in that. I have this Pokemon stream I've really been wanting to do, and the only people like within my kind of circle that have also done Pokemon stuff are Dr. Bonehead and Pyro Prima, so I'm going to see if they want to do that stream whenever I get time to do that. So I want to do more streams and stuff more often, and more collaborative stuff. It's just, trying to find time to do it when I'm just really just... I've, again, been making like a video or two a day for like 3 months straight at this point. I have been pumping out videos like crazy. Plus, just the worst part, I wish I had more time to pump out videos, but like so much of my life is just focus on stuff. I have to do so much outside of YouTube that's taking my time away. So I really, really, really want to get my sleep schedule under control so that I can stream more, so that I can make more videos. And then like once I get all of that under control, I feel like I'm just years behind on stuff that I need to catch up on. Like I said, anime, I still need to do 2023 stuff. Where I spent so long not being able to make videos for like 2 or 3 years there until getting like fully back this year, that it's like I feel like I'm just years behind on stuff I want to make. I just need to find time to make all the stuff I want to make. So I will be doing much more in the future. I'd love to do more just streams like this where I just sit and talk to all of you about the most recent chapters or Tower of God in general. I'd like to do more streams like this, and it'd be great if I did more streams like this to bring in more of the other Tower of God YouTubers and streamers and stuff. I would really, really, really like to do that more. It's just that, again, in the future, I'll maybe have to try to organize it anymore. Because all those big streams or videos that Naya's done with like 5 of us in here, he has planned those for like months in advance. He has put a lot of work into those. Like whenever you see those on Naya's channel, he plans them like months in advance. He makes like show notes, like for topics for us to like to keep us on topic. Like we're going to talk about this topic, then this topic, then this topic. Like he really organizes those out, gets everybody together. So again, I'd love to do more stuff in the future. I don't know if I have it in me as often to like organize stuff like that, but again, like I mentioned to all of them when I threw it in the group chat before coming to do this, I was like, if anytime any of them see me live, they're free to just jump in. But yeah, anybody got anything else they want me to get to before I go? And then I'll wait a little bit. Sorry, just looking at stuff. Okay. I feel like I'm just so used to, or so new to streaming and stuff, and when I go back and watch the VOD just to check things out, see how things are going, there's like such a delay, like a surprising delay to me. Maxime? Okay. There's such a surprising delay that I'm just like, do I have to wait like 30 seconds before what I'm saying is conveyed to you? Like, I don't feel like I should be on that far of a delay, but yeah, I'm just so new to this stuff. This is like what, my 3rd, 4th stream ever. But thank you all for being here. It really means a lot. Maxime especially has been here for a lot of these. Thank you to Folded Ghoul for being here, also one of the members and patrons. Thank you so much, all of you, for all of your involvement. Thank you, Short Stuff, who said first time watching me live. Thank you so much. Yeah, and there's been a good dozen of you here this entire time, so thank you so much for being here. I really, really do appreciate it. I'm going to go do my usual patron member thing, then I'll end this out. And then, like I said, tomorrow, Hero Academia if I have time, Tower of God anime if I have time. If I don't have time, it'll be up Monday, but I'll at least record it tomorrow. So I'll at least watch the episode tomorrow and record my reaction and stuff. And if I don't have time to post it before the manhwa chapter comes out, then I'll post it Monday, but I'll try to post it before the manhwa chapter comes out. And then tomorrow night, as usual, I'll have my reaction. I always try to record at 9, and then it usually takes me until like, if I get to record at 9, it takes me till like 11 or 12 to get it up for all of you. But yeah, I'll end things here. Let me go over to the patrons and members. I mentioned this even yesterday, but I forgot to update this. Thank you to Chosen Regular Evan Holly, Magical Girls, Efranono, Abyss Knight, and J.A., Cherryton students, David Langstaff and Folded Ghoul, Slayer candidates, SG and Stan Cedar, and Pure Element, Pate Ardial. The Hook said also my first stream and I enjoyed it. Thank you so much, The Hook. Again, I knew some of you, newer names. Thank you so much for being around. But yeah, huge thank you to all of you. Huge thank you to patrons and members. And I guess, I feel like, when do I stop streaming? Because I feel like my past 2 streams, this is like my 3rd or 4th. When I end them, I hit end stream, and then I'm like, okay, I'm good. But then I go to the VOD, and I'm like cut off mid-sentence. So I'm like, do I need to stop talking? And then wait like a few seconds and then hit end stream? I don't know what to do. Either way, gonna end it. Thank you for being here. See you all next time.